Discover the heartwarming moment a millionaire's arrival changed a little girl's life forever. In the quaint little town of Maplewood, 10-year-old Sarah Thompson could turn the gloomiest day into sunshine with just her paintbrush. Her world was vibrant, full of colors and dreams as bold as her personality. But now, shadows fell over her family as her father lost his job at the local factory, an establishment that had once buzzed with life, now a mere echo of its former self. Struggle seemed to drape over their home like a heavy blanket, yet through it all, her family remained a bright beacon of support. With hues of blue and yellow swirling around her, Sarah found solace in her paints, pouring her heart out onto canvas. Each stroke was a release, a way to combat the heaviness that threatened to pull her down. But when the laughter of her peers turned to ridicule, her heart sank. Not only was her art dismissed, but her dreams felt like whispers no one could hear. Then, from the bustling city came Mark Reynolds, a millionaire and philanthropist. He came back to the small town of his childhood, hoping to reconnect with roots he had long abandoned. Little did he know that his presence would send a ripple of excitement and uncertainty through the tight-knit community. As Mark wandered into a local community center, he stumbled upon Sarah's vibrant creations. The colors danced on the canvas, tugging at his heartstrings. Could this be a spark of hope amid the town's despair? Yet, the townsfolk had mixed feelings. Some viewed him as an outsider, while others hoped he would bring change. The murmur spread, and Sarah felt the weight of judgment as her classmates openly teased her. "You think someone like him would care about your little paintings?" they taunted. With every snide comment, her dreams felt like they were unraveling, leaving raw doubt twisting in her stomach. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With her family's unwavering support urging her forward, Sarah made a bold choice. She would showcase her artwork at the town's annual festival, the very heart of Maplewood. Perhaps this was her chance to show everyone that darkness could illuminate beauty. The days slipped by, filled with the swirling of paint and nervous anticipation. Would they really see her talent, or merely her father's misfortune? As festival day approached, tension crackled in the air. The townspeople gathered, their expressions a mix of anticipation and skepticism. Whispers filled the square, asking if a girl from a struggling family could truly rise to the occasion. Sarah stood next to her easel, heart racing, as Mark emerged from the crowd, eyes scanning the artwork with intense curiosity. The murmurs quieted, and a hum of hope flickered in the air as he prepared to speak. Could this be the moment that transformed dreams into reality? As silence enveloped the crowd, the anxious question hung between them like a drawn bowstring. Would Mark recognize Sarah's talent, or would it only intensify their burdens? The air was electric with potential, and all eyes turned toward the million-dollar man, wondering if he could breathe life into the spirit of their little girl. When Mark finally spoke, his voice cut through the thick silence like a ray of sunlight. "These paintings, they're incredible." His words hung in the air, surprising everyone. Instead of skepticism, curiosity began to spread among the townsfolk. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as her heart raced. Could it be that someone finally saw her, truly saw her? She clutched the easel, feeling the rough wood under her small hands, desperate for a sign that this moment could lead to something more than merely showing her work. Mark continued, "Art has a unique power. It tells stories. It shares emotions." He paused, his gaze meeting Sarah's. "And your art is full of both." A ripple of excitement surged through the crowd. For the first time, Sarah felt hope blossom like a flower breaking through winter soil. Yet she still felt the prickle of doubt in the back of her mind. Would they soon return to judging her all over again? As the crowd swelled with admiration, Mark approached Sarah. "Tell me about this one," he said, pointing to a painting bursting with yellows and oranges, a summer scene with sunflowers reaching for the sun amidst a blue sky dotted with fluffy white clouds. It's called Hope," she stammered, a mixture of fear and pride bubbling within her. "I painted it during one of the hardest times. I wanted it to remind people that even in tough moments, good things can shine through." Mark smiled warmly, nodding in appreciation. "Hope is something we all need, especially now." He gestured to the crowd. "This is what we have to remember. We need to support young artists like Sarah. They're the future. Whispers of encouragement began to fill the air as neighbors turned to one another, some even murmuring apologies to Sarah for the earlier ridicule. It felt like a tide had turned, washing away the weight of doubt that had settled over her heart for weeks. Then, to Sarah's astonishment, Mark announced, "I want to sponsor an art program right here in Maplewood. We need to give young talents like Sarah a chance to flourish." A loud cheer erupted from the crowd, echoing through the square. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes as she looked around. Some were clapping, others were nodding, and some even wiped their own tears. The feeling was electric. For the first time, she felt not only accepted, but celebrated. What if this is it? A voice in her mind whispered. The fear that had suffocated her was now lifted, replaced by an overwhelming sensation of upliftment. Mark turned back to Sarah, his expression earnest. "You should know you have touched many hearts here today. Your art is brilliant. Never let anyone diminish that sparkle." As Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude, she realized that this was just the beginning. But amidst the joy, a flicker of anxiety flickered. What if she couldn't live up to expectations? With the festival winding down and the sun casting long shadows on the ground, Sarah clutched her paintbrush tightly. She had a chance to shine, but also a burden of expectations looming before her. As she stood there, in a swirl of colors and newfound possibilities, she caught Mark's eye once more. Would he be there to guide her, or would she have to face the challenges of pursuing her dreams alone? The question lingered in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty. Sarah realized that the true journey was just beginning, and her heart raced with both fear and excitement. What would her next step be in this world she was just beginning to navigate? As the last remnants of sunlight dipped below the horizon, the square began to clear out. The cheers faded, replaced by soft conversations and laughter. Sarah still stood by her easel, absorbing the surreal reality of the past hour. The noise gradually muted until only the whispering wind danced through the trees. "Sarah," Mark called again, his voice cutting through her daze. She turned to find him walking her way, the glow of excitement still apparent on his face. "I'd love to discuss the art program," he said, lowering his voice as if the intimacy of the moment required it. Her heart pounded with anticipation. "You really mean it?" she asked, almost breathlessly. It felt like a dream that could slip away if she questioned it too much. "Of course. You have a gift," he replied, a sincere intensity in his eyes. "I see so much potential in you." For the first time, Sarah felt seen in a way that went beyond her paintings. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating at the same time. "What if I fail?" she admitted, the weight of her past creeping back into her thoughts. Mark stepped closer, his expression softening. "Failure is part of the journey. What matters is that you keep trying. I believe in you, and I want to help you find your voice." His words felt like a warm blanket around her heart, pushing away the chilling doubt. Bracing herself, Sarah allowed a smile to break through. "I want to do it. I want to create even more." "Then let's get started," he said, enthusiasm lighting up his features. "Tomorrow we can brainstorm ideas together. I'll introduce you to the community center, where we'll hold the program. I've got connections and at local galleries too. You'll have a real shot." "Wow, really?" Sarah's voice trembled with disbelief. She could barely fathom the prospect of being showcased alongside other talented artists. It felt like the weight of doubt began to lift, replaced with the fuel to dream bigger. "Absolutely," he grinned, looking almost boyish in his excitement. "But remember, this is going to take hard work and perseverance. Are you ready for that?" "I am." The conviction in her voice surprised even her. She wouldn't let this opportunity slip away. She drew a deep breath, determined. As they discussed ideas and plans, Sarah felt a sense of belonging growing within her. Mark's encouragement was like the strong roots of an oak tree reaching into the ground, anchoring her in place and allowing her to push upward. But even amid this new faith, a lingering question danced at the edge of her mind. Would everyone support her when the initial enthusiasm wore off? Would they still embrace her when the challenges came and the excitement faded into work? As the evening drew to a close, a few stragglers remained, discussing plans for the art program. They laughed and spoke of upcoming events, their smiles bright and hopeful. Sarah looked around at the blooming support. It was almost too much to process. For every warm smile, she also sensed the wariness in others, those who still found it hard to accept her talent. Mark's presence was a steadying force against her swirling thoughts. "I'll be here," he assured her, as though sensing the storm brewing in her heart. "You don't have to do this alone." In that moment, Sarah realized she would need to be brave, not just for herself, but for those around her. She had a chance not only to thrive, but to show everyone what true hope looked like. But just as she felt she was stepping into her light, a flicker of doubt nipped at her heels. What if she fell flat? What if she disappointed everyone? Most of all, herself. As they wrapped up their chat and bid farewell, Sarah glanced back at her easel, a mix of excitement and dread balling in her stomach. Tomorrow would mark a new beginning, but the road ahead remained uncertain. Would she find the courage to embrace this journey? Would her new support system hold strong when her dreams began to challenge the familiar? With the night beginning to blanket Maplewood, Sarah walked away feeling both exhilarated and terrified. She was ready to step into a world of possibilities, but shadows of her past still loomed large, waiting to test her resolve. The next morning arrived with a hesitant glow. Sarah rubbed the sleep from her eyes, but the excitement of the day ahead buzzed beneath her skin. She prepared a simple breakfast, nearly forgetting to brew her usual cup of coffee. The aroma of the rich beans filled the kitchen, blending with her nervous energy. Today, everything could change. As she gathered her sketches, a sense of urgency propelled her forward.
A million thoughts raced in her mind, ideas for her art, how to structure the program, and what Mark might suggest. But somewhere in that vibrant pot of feelings was a sharp twinge of uncertainty. What if she turned out to be an imposter? What if her ideas fell flat or didn't resonate with anyone? Clenching her jaw, Sarah pushed the worries aside. She dressed simply but thoughtfully, choosing a flowy yellow top that felt warm against her skin and a pair of jeans that always made her feel comfortable. Sarah wanted to step into this new world feeling strong and alive. After a deep breath, she left her apartment and stepped into the sunlight. The community center wasn't far, just a few blocks away from her small building. As she walked, the gentle warmth of the sun bathed her face, making her feel like she could conquer anything. She arrived at the center just a few minutes early, the imposing brick facade looking more welcoming under bright blue skies. Sarah's heart raced as she approached the entrance. A nervous smile played on her lips as she pushed the door open, the hinges creaking slightly. Inside, the air felt charged with creative energy. Colorful artwork hung on the walls, each piece vibrant and bursting with life. Several artists were setting up tables, their oils and palettes displaying a kaleidoscope of colors. For a moment, she felt like a fish out of water, but then she spotted Mark. He waved from across the room, his face lighting up when he saw her. "You made it," he called out, and the warmth in his demeanor wrapped around her like a hug. "Yeah, I wouldn't miss it," Sarah replied, stepping closer. "Good. I wanted to introduce you to some folks." He gestured toward a group of artists gathered in a circle, their laughter rippling through the room like joyful music. "This is Ava and Jason. They're going to help with the program, and they've contributed to some amazing community art projects." "Nice to meet you," Sarah said, extending her hand, only to be met with genuine smiles. Before long, they engaged her in conversation, peppering her with questions about her art. Their warmth felt like sunlight filling the spaces inside her that had once gone dim. For the first time, she felt that her passion might actually matter. But then, just as the connection blossomed, a voice broke in from the other side of the room, deep and commanding. "Excuse me, everyone." A tall man, striking with white hair and sharp features, stepped into view. The room quieted, the earlier buzz fading rapidly. "I'm Daniel Miller, and I'm excited to announce a special project for the art program." His words landed in the room like stones, sending ripples of attention in all directions. "We're looking to mentor emerging artists and provide unparalleled opportunities. I'm thrilled to see so many eager faces here today." Sarah's heart raced at the mention of mentorship. Was this the opportunity she had been envisioning? The chance to work with someone who had the connections to propel her art into the world? But before she could seize that thought, her gaze melted back to Mark, who exchanged a knowing look with her. In that single moment, it felt as if the path of her dreams just widened, opening up a fresh vista of hope. As excitement and questions filled the room, she realized that her art journey was just beginning, and there was no turning back now. Filled with fresh resolve, she smiled. What awaited her as they moved forward into this new challenge together? Would her voice finally break free amidst the rustle of potential? Sarah held her breath, anticipation brewing as the next phase of her life approached.
The buzz in the room took on a life of its own as Daniel spoke. It felt electric, a current zipping through the small gathering that had quickly transformed from a casual meetup to a pivotal turning point. Sarah stood tall, straining to capture every word, every hopeful glance exchanged among her newfound friends. Successful applications for the mentorship program must be submitted by the end of this month, Daniel continued. This is a chance to showcase your work, get feedback, and connect with professionals who can help you reach your potential. It's not just about creating, it's about thriving as artists. As his words settled into the air, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of enthusiasm and fear. Could she really put herself out there? What if she poured her heart into this and still fell short? Applause echoed around her, but in that moment, she felt isolated, the weight of doubt pressing heavily on her shoulders. Mark must have sensed her hesitation. He leaned in closer and whispered, "You okay?" "Yeah, just wondering if I'm good enough for this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. His eyes softened, burning with encouragement. "You are more than enough. Look how far you've come just to be here. This is your moment, Sarah." Taking a deep breath, she straightened herself, letting his words course through her. She reminded herself of the sketches in her bag. Each one represented a piece of her soul. They were vibrant, raw, and honest. This was her chance to show that side of herself to the world. As the group discussed ideas for collaborative projects, Sarah's confidence began to grow. She shared her thoughts, each word a stone laid on the path she was carving for herself. Mark and the others nodded in approval, their faces brightening with understanding. "Let's make sure to include friendship themes in our projects, art that celebrates our connections," Ava suggested enthusiastically, and the others chimed in with agreement. Feeling the warmth of camaraderie envelop her, Sarah allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to present one of her pieces at an exhibit, surrounded by supportive faces. A flicker of joy ignited in her chest. Suddenly, the room didn't feel so intimidating.
However, her reverie was interrupted when Daniel's voice rose again, calling for attention. "We'll have a registration table set up by the end of the week. I urge all of you to consider applying for the mentorship. Don't let self-doubt hold you back." The mix of excitement and nervousness swelled within Sarah. It was one thing to be encouraged, another to have the courage to act. Was she ready to step through that door? Could she turn her sketches into something vibrant, alive? The event carried on as Sarah's mind raced. Vision after vision of her art, brightened by the stroke of transformation, began to emerge. But something deep inside her questioned, what if she was not ready for the change that awaited her? The weight of her fears loomed again, but she couldn't shake the pull toward the opportunities presented. Just then, Mark nudged her elbow gently. "Looks like we're experiencing an art renaissance. You don't want to miss this." He was smiling, his enthusiasm infectious as he moved closer to Daniel to express his own ideas. Sarah watched, letting his belief in her propel her forward. If others could find their voices here, so could she. But as her heart raced for the next steps, she couldn't shake the feeling of impending decisions looming just out of reach. Would she be brave enough to share her art, or would uncertainty linger, holding her back from what could be? As she stood on the cusp of possibility, that question loomed just as heavily as ever. Mark's energy buzzed in the air, pulling Sarah along with it. As he exchanged ideas with Daniel, his enthusiasm painted the moment with a bright brush. She could feel the spark of inspiration bubbling up from her chest, but doubt kept her anchored to the ground. Her mind raced with possibilities, yet the gnarled roots of insecurity held her down. "Are you ready for this?" Ava's voice broke through her thoughts. She stood beside Sarah, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Ready? I don't know," the words spilled out before Sarah could stop them. "Just think about it," Ava nudged. "You've got the talent. Show them what you've got. They'll love it." "But what if they don't?" Sarah countered. The vulnerability squeezed her heart tightly. "Who cares?" Ava laughed lightly, her tone playful yet sincere. "You're creating for you. Show the world your truth. No one can take that away." A rush of gratitude swelled inside Sarah, a reminder of the friendships blossoming around her. She needed to hold on to these moments, wrap them around her insecurities like armor, yet the gnawing unease persisted, like a shadow lurking on the edge of her thoughts. As the meeting continued, Daniel moved gracefully from one topic to another. He explained the nuances of the application process, sprinkling in his own stories of growth as an artist. Each tale tugged at Sarah's heart, igniting new flames of ambition deep within her.
Most importantly, he stressed, let your passion shine through your work.
That's what will captivate your audience. Captivate. The word resonated deep within her. Could she captivate? The very essence of her sketches seemed to pulse with life, yet the fear of rejection stung sharply at the back of her throat. "Have you thought about what you'll submit?" Mark asked, returning beside her, his tone encouraging. "Not really. She started, but the words hung heavy in the air. "Maybe focus on something that speaks to you. Your best work is always the one written from the heart," he said, his eyes gleaming with sincerity. Her heart raced again. What if she could somehow channel her emotions into her sketches? Images of her pieces flickered through her mind, each bursting with stories waiting to be told. The thought sent a shiver of excitement down her spine. "Do you think they'll really care about my story, about my art?" she whispered, needing reassurance. "Absolutely," Mark replied. "You're not alone in this. Everyone in that program has faced their doubts. They'll relate to you far more than you think." The warmth of his words fanned the flames of her fraught imagination. She imagined the eyes of strangers examining her work, perhaps feeling the same pang of emotion that birthed her creations. Suddenly, the idea didn't feel as daunting. But still, a cautious thought flickered. What if she failed in front of the very people she admired? The vision dimmed, casting a solemn shadow over her newfound hope. "Just promise me one thing," Mark urged. "Promise you'll at least try. You never know what could happen if you take that leap." Taking a leap. She weighed that thought carefully. Could she step up and share herself with the world? The night wore on, filled with laughter and plans being forged amongst friends ready to lift one another. But just as the chatter grew to a crescendo again, Sarah's heart began to pound harder. Was she brave enough to submit her application? As the question swirled around her mind like a dry leaf caught in an autumn gust, Daniel's voice boomed again. "Don't let fear steal your voice. This is about growth, not perfection." The walls around her thoughts seemed to crack a little, and with it, a flicker of determination found its way into her soul. And for a fleeting moment, she felt a pulse of boldness wash over her. Could that be enough? As she lingered in uncertainty, the clock chimed softly, announcing the end of the gathering. The air shimmered with potential, and Sarah's heart raced with questions that surged purposefully. What if this was her moment to finally leap? What if the very act of trying transformed her life in ways she hadn't even begun to imagine? As everyone began to pack up and get ready to leave, her gaze found Mark's. He caught her eye with understanding, sensing the shift within her. And just like that, the door of possibility swung wide open. But would she have the strength to walk through it? The room began to empty, the laughter and chatter fading into the background as Sarah stood lost in thought. She watched her friends gather their things, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on her shoulders. The myriad colors of the sketches she had tucked away flooded her mind, vivid and alive, but so were the voices of doubt. "Hey, you okay?" Ava's voice broke through, her brow creased with concern. Sarah nodded, but felt a lump forming deep within her throat. I'm trying to figure out if I can really do this." "You can, Ava said, stepping closer. "You've got to trust in yourself. Think of all the times you've created something powerful. Those sketches mean something. They need to be seen." The urgency in Ava's voice brought a flutter of hope. Her sketches had ebbed and flowed from her heart, yet the fear of exposing her inner world squeezed her heart once more. "Maybe I should start with something simple," she said quietly, more to herself than to Ava. "Something I'm comfortable with." Suddenly, Daniel's voice rang out from the other side of the room. "No, you've got to dig deep, Sarah. You should tell a story that makes you vulnerable. That's where the magic is." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Vulnerability. It was a double-edged sword that could either cut deep or lay a foundation for something beautiful. She didn't have to chase perfection. "But I don't even know what that story is," Sarah confessed, the truth of her fear spilling out. Mark approached, joining the circle. "Sometimes it's about discovering what you've already experienced. What resonates most with you?" His questions hung in the air, and for a moment, Sarah felt a flicker of understanding. She could explore what she had been afraid to face, her struggles, her triumphs. The very experiences that shaped her began to take shape in her mind, like faint outlines on a canvas.
Be brave enough to let it out, Mark encouraged, and instantly a rush of emotion surged through her. She thought of her childhood, the laughter of her parents, the crippling expectations she often felt under, the confidence she lacked pushed down her creativity like an anchor. But there were moments of quiet strength too, the times she found solace in her drawings, those flickers of hope that sparked and ignited her spirit. A sudden clarity broke through the fog in her mind. I think I want to show the struggle of finding your own voice, despite the fear. Sarah surprised herself with the resolution in her voice. That's it, Ava exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. That's a story we all can relate to. Let them feel your journey. The excitement thrumming in the air felt electric. Sarah could see it now, her sketches mingling with the whispers of her past, telling a story that dared to be told. Could her art resonate with others? Could they feel her heartbeat?
As the last of her friends gathered at the door, Sarah took one last deep breath, feeling that flicker of bravery burst into flames. I'll do it, she declared, surprising even herself. I'll submit something real. Mark beamed at her, pride shining in his eyes. That's the spirit. No looking back now. But just as the thrill of determination built within her, a feeling of dread swept in at the edges. What if her raw truth wasn't enough? As they stepped out into the cool night air, Sarah felt alive and terrified all at once. The moon hung high, casting a silvery light on their faces, a beacon for the journey ahead. Would she truly be brave enough to face the world with her truth? As her heart raced with uncertainty, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was just the beginning. What if uncovering her story led her to discover a part of herself she never knew existed? The next few days felt like a whirlpool. Sarah dove headfirst into her drawings, but the press of her emotions was unyielding. Every pencil stroke was heavy with expectation. Each line fought against a tide of fear. She wasn't just drawing, she was bearing her soul. In the solitude of her room, the sketches seemed to morph into life. The laughter of her past echoed in her mind, but so did the weight of her parents' hopes. The vibrant colors challenged the shadows that had lingered for too long. She could see the struggle of her journey presented before her like an unfolding storybook. Each sketch became a chapter, and she started to lose herself in the pages. But as the deadline approached, guilt clawed at her. "Why is this so hard?" she whispered aloud one afternoon, her voice barely rising above the rustle of her sketches. It felt as if the pages were scolding her for not being good enough. What if her vulnerability made her a target? One evening, unable to escape the doubts any longer, Sarah reached for her phone. She scrolled through her gallery of images, photos of her friends, family, moments that shaped her. But as she looked at the smiles frozen in time, warmth collided with insecurity. "Hey, Sarah, you want to join us for dinner?" Ava's voice crackled over the line, pulling her from her contemplation. "Yeah, sure," Sarah replied, forcing herself to sound upbeat. "I'll be there in a bit." As she arrived at the bustling restaurant, the familiar chatter wrapped around her, momentarily dulling the noise in her mind. Ava and Daniel waved her over energetically, their smiles lighting up the dimly lit space. They were all catching up, swapping stories like treasures. Laughter bubbled up, uncomplicated and pure. "What's got you so quiet today?" Daniel nudged her playfully. "Got a secret to share?" Sarah bit her lip, contemplating if she should lay her worries bare among the laughter, but the buoyancy of their spirits urged her to join in. "I've been working on something," she admitted slowly. Ava leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Tell us." "You know we want to hear about it." Taking a deep breath, Sarah cautiously revealed her mission, her sketches, her desire to share her story. "Wow, that sounds incredible," Ava beamed. "You've always had a gift for capturing emotion. Just think about how your story can inspire others." "Yeah," Daniel added, nodding earnestly. "You should see how your art connects with every one of us. It's part of who you are, and it's so real." Their support sat like a lifebuoy, lifting the weight off her chest. But just as her heart began to quicken with hope, doubt wormed back in. But what if it's not enough? What if no one relates to my story? Their faces suddenly shifted. Daniel's brows furrowed, giving way to a serious tone. "Sarah, it's not about everyone else's approval. It's about you facing your truth. No matter your fear, don't hold back. You have a voice deserving to be heard. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real."
His words resonated deep inside her, igniting another flicker of courage. Maybe this was her chance to break free from the chains of expectation. Maybe she could risk sharing her truth. As they continued their meal, laughter and warmth enveloped her, but a soft determination began to form at the core of her thoughts. Her sketches wouldn't just be art. They could be a bridge to unexpected connections and healing. "Okay," Sarah said, determination pulsing through her veins. "I think I know where I want to start." But as she dimmed the conversation to a hush, a flutter of anxiety returned. Could she truly reveal herself? What if she stumbled at the finish line? The embrace of the white air beckoned her home, but there was no way she could ignore the truth now brimming within her. What if this was the turning point for Sarah? What if sharing her story opened doors she hadn't even considered? As the days rolled on, Sarah found herself caught in a dance between hope and fear. Her pencil flew across the pages, creating images that stirred something deep within her. The sketches told a story of resilience and heartbreak, but even as she poured her feelings onto the page, her stomach twisted with anxiety. What if no one understood? What if they laughed? Her mom noticed the change in her lately. "You've been so focused, Sarah. Are you okay?" she asked one evening, setting down a plate of steaming spaghetti. "Yeah, just working on my project," Sarah replied, trying to keep the conversation light. But the familiar warmth of home faded a little under the weight of her unspoken fears. That night, Sarah lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Shadows danced across the room, reminding her of the darkness that lurked behind her thoughts. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing at the edge of something monumental. Was she really ready to leap? After a restless night, she stumbled into the morning, her heart racing as she thought of the deadline. With each passing hour, she felt the walls closing in, the pressure mounting.
She needed a breakthrough, a sign, or maybe just a little nudge. A sudden idea struck her while she stood in front of her mural-spattered walls later that afternoon. If she could gather her friends for a session, perhaps discussing her work aloud would bring clarity. So she texted Ava and Daniel, inviting them over for a creative afternoon. The excitement in their replies filled her with a buoyant sense of hope. That Saturday turned out to be a wild mix of laughter and sketches. The trio sprawled across the floor, sharing ideas and suggestions, their creative energy spilling into the room like bright paint on a blank canvas. Sarah felt lighter with each passing minute, each shared laugh pushing aside her insecurities. "Okay, let's see your sketches," Ava urged, practically bouncing in her seat. With a deep breath, Sarah uncovered her drawings, her fingers trembling. Tentatively, she revealed the first piece, a vibrant portrait of her childhood self, framed by chaotic lines representing both joy and anxiety. As she explained her process, she could see the enchantment blossom in their expressions. "You've captured the essence of being a kid perfectly, Sarah," Daniel explained, sitting upright. "It makes me feel like I'm there again." A surge of warmth spread through her chest. Their excitement was addictive, lifting her spirits toward the skies. But the moment wasn't without its shadows. "But what about this darker piece?" Ava asked, a hint of concern flashing across her face as she pointed to a particularly intense sketch. The truth hit Sarah like a freight train. "That one, it reflects my fears," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I worry that I'll never be enough." For a heartbeat, silence fell in their circle, heavy with unspoken understanding. Then Daniel leaned closer, sincerity etched in his features. "Everyone has fears. What makes you strong is that you're willing to face them. That's where real art lives." As his words settled in, she felt the tight grip of her insecurities start to loosen. The act of sharing her fears felt like a weight lifting. Exposing the raw edges of her heart rather than hiding them felt somehow like freedom. Ava nodded in agreement, her eyes shimmering with empathy. "Sarah, you're not alone in this. We all carry pieces of our past. Let's help each other through." As they continued sharing their sketches, a bond deeper than ever formed among them, illuminating a path Sarah hadn't expected. Each line on the paper was now a link, weaving their stories together. But just as she felt the stirring of hope in her chest, her phone buzzed. One message from the art collective confirming their meeting date. Only 1 week left until her work would be revealed to the world. Could she truly show her heart? An unexpected twist landed in her stomach. If she was to put her story out there and at last become the voice she felt she had buried for so long, where would this journey take her? Would it bring the liberation she sought, or would it tighten the chains of fear once again? The final week had arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Sarah awoke each day with a mixture of excitement and dread, her sketches pinned to the walls of her room like banners of a battle she felt unprepared to fight.
The moments spent with Ava and Daniel hung in her mind like the perfume of blooming flowers, inviting yet overwhelming. They had believed in her, inspiring her to unleash her truth. But as the day approached, doubt began to creep back in like an unwelcome shadow. There she stood, surrounded by splashes of color, her heart heavy with fears she thought she had cast aside. A part of her couldn't help but wonder if her vulnerability would drive people away or invite them closer. What if they didn't see the beauty in her struggle? What if they laughed? The sun shone brightly on the day of the art exhibition, illuminating Maplewood with a golden glow. As Sarah made her way to the community center, she felt a gentle flutter in her stomach. Each step thumped loudly in her heart, resonating with her nerves. The streets were filled with eager faces, each one excited to celebrate the talent showcased that day. When Sarah arrived, the ambiance exploded with life. Laughter floated through the air, filling the communal space with a pulse of energy. Friends and family gathered, their expressions glowing with pride. But as she stepped inside, the vast space loomed larger than she felt. Her breaths became shallower, the questions swarmed again. Will they love it? Can I handle this? Before she could spiral deeper, she spotted Mark across the room, his grin warm and inviting as he waved. The sight of him grounded her, serving as an anchor amidst the waves of uncertainty. With each step she took toward him, the crowd became a blur, each later note dissolving in importance. All that mattered was his reassuring presence. "You're here," he said, joy bubbling over as he pulled her into a quick embrace. "You ready to show the world, Sarah Thompson?" "Not really," she admitted, her voice low. She needed his encouragement. What if they don't understand? Mark's eyes sparkled with sincerity, his tone gentle yet firm. "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're exposing your heart. Believe me, many will relate. You're sharing something powerful." As a wave of warmth washed over her, Sarah drew in a deep breath and nodded, slowly threading her worries on the strings of courage he had gifted her. They moved throughout the center, the walls alight with paintings, vibrant and alive. Each canvas chronicled dreams, stories, and emotions, not just hers, but those of her friends who faced their demons too. And then it was time, the moment she had both longed for and dreaded. Standing before her easel, she felt her heart thrumming like the drums of a celebratory parade.
The whispers of what if faded as she took a step forward, no longer just a spectator, but the main character of her story. As the crowd gathered around her piece, she felt the embrace of anticipation wrapping around her heart. With her hands shaking slightly, she began to speak, pouring out the journey behind her art. Every brushstroke represents moments I felt lost, moments of doubt, fear, and also resilience. Her words spilled forth, flowing like the colors on her canvas. I wanted to show that even in the hardest times, there's beauty in finding your voice. To her astonishment, the faces reflected understanding and connection rather than ridicule. She watched as people leaned in closer, nodding in recognition of their shared struggles. Their eyes glistened with emotion. She wasn't alone. Then Mark stepped up beside her, his presence a beacon of positivity. This is what art is all about, letting our stories collide and inspiring change. We rise together, hand in hand. His words resonated in the air like the final sweep of a brush. Sarah's heart soared as the crowd erupted in applause. The cheers stirred something deep within her, an understanding that she had transformed. She was not only an artist, she was a voice. The validation cascaded over her like sunlight piercing through clouds, washing away the lingering fears. As she scanned the crowd, she spotted familiar faces, her family, her friends, smiling and embracing one another. They had come out to support her, lifting her spirit higher than she ever imagined. In that moment, she found peace dwelling within her. Amid joyous laughter and conversations, Sarah felt whole. She had emerged from the shadows into the light, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. It wasn't just a showcase, it was a pivotal moment, a celebration of vulnerability and strength, leaving her ignited with hope. Stepping into the next chapter of her journey, Sarah knew the road would take unexpected turns, but with a heart now bursting with resilience and an unwavering support network, she was ready to face each chapter with the courage she had discovered.
Her story didn't end here. It was just the beginning of a beautiful adventure. And now, don't you dare let this moment fade. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately and be the first to witness the next incredible journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these inspiring stories alive. Community is key, so comment below with your thoughts and feelings about Sarah's transformational journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need some inspiration in their lives. You're not just sharing a story, you're sharing hope and the magic of art. Let's spread this positivity together.